So, for my icebreaker today for you ladies is what are some red flags or deal breakers that you have when it comes to relationships in general?
That's a good question. Deal breaker number one is definitely if you can't communicate. Like, I think everybody has trouble communicating, but if you can't even like tell me how you feel or you can't be honest with me, then I don't want to be around you because like I can't trust you and I need trust. Like that's just the foundation of a relationship. Anything else? I would definitely just say like if you're like there's certain standards, like if you're racist, obviously no, but if you're like homophobic, if you're transphobic, like if you're not open to like women being in power, like things like that, I don't want to be around you. And that's if that's your opinion, you can have those opinions, but for me, like I'm very vocal about like those topics, so I need somebody that can be on the same speed as me. Yeah, and before we start getting more and more into the discussion, I'm going to talk about a Black History Month quote that's relative to what we're talking about. So obviously, there's a pretty popular book called All About Love by Bell Hooks, and there's a quote from that book, and she says, "We do not have to love, we choose to love. When we understand love as the will to nurture our own and another spiritual growth, it becomes clear that we cannot claim to love if we are hurtful and abusive. Love and abuse cannot coexist." And also, I just want to mention a trigger warning for this episode because we might be talking about some things that are sensitive topics, or it might remind you of your past, and we don't want anybody to be listening to this on their way to school or something like that and then they get triggered. So, trigger warning. But I just want to ask a question. Have you guys ever, let's start with healthy relationships. Have you guys ever experienced a healthy relationship or friendship, and how did you guys know that it was healthy? For me, I think I'm in a relationship right now, and I think I'm definitely realizing that it's healthier. I think it's a healthy relationship, definitely based off my past relationship where it was just really toxic, and I realized it was healthy when we would get in arguments, but they didn't feel like arguments. Like, It would just be like, hey, I don't like that you did this. And then they'd be like, oh, like, what didn't you like about it? It wasn't like, I don't do, like, It wasn't, like, combative. It was just, like, saying, like, hey, okay, like, let me listen to you. Let me try to understand you. And, like, we be debating all the time. And I love it because it's, like, I like that we don't have the same opinion on everything. Like, we differ in our opinions, but we're always very respectful. And I think that's kind of when I realized, like, okay, this is more healthy for sure.
Oh, yeah. So what constitutes a healthy relationship to y'all?
I think a healthy relationship is one where you understand one another. Like, comprehension is really important. Like, I think, I'm gonna just call my boyfriend by his name, but me and Mari, like, it took time to understand one another. Like, I think we weren't dating for like 3 months. We were just talking and getting to know each other. And so because of that, we got to know like how we act around each other, how we act in certain situations. So for me, definitely knowing something's healthy is just understanding one another and being able to meet each other where you're at. Like, not trying to put expectations on that person or let them put expectations on you. And then, I guess just feeling comfortable with them. Like, if I feel like I can't, like I said, like if I feel like you can't be honest with me, or if I can't be honest with you, then there's a problem. Like, I need to be able to be honest with you and tell you honestly and be like, hey, I didn't like that you did this. Or even like, I'm used to, in my past relationship, I used to be scared to like tell them I love them, or used to be scared to like gush on them. But it's like, that's not anything wrong. Like, that's perfectly okay to express how you feel to somebody. And I think that's like the main things to me that constitute a healthy relationship on like the very basic level.
I would definitely say,
yeah, or you don't have to like prepare to be around them. It's like, okay,
right, prepare.
Like, you can just, yeah.
That's wow.
Speaking of that, actually, I kind of want to talk a little bit about attachment styles. So there's another book called Attached, and it talks about attachment styles and codependency. And I actually have a question. So, codependency do you think it's a myth? And like, what are y'all attachment styles, if you don't mind sharing? And how do you feel about attachment styles? I'm gonna go first on this. And I feel like codependency is a myth because I feel like when two attachment styles don't work together, it causes codependency. And that's my take. I'll go into it after I hear y'all's though.
Not go to class because you got free time, or so I believe in it. I've seen it time and time again.
Yeah, I think codependency for me is just like, I'm not saying it doesn't happen. I'm saying like it happens. Like, if it happens, I don't think that's like a good relationship. That's what I'm trying to say. Like, I feel like, because based on what I read off this book, like attachment styles, like obviously there's like anxious, avoidant, secure, and anxious, avoidant. And like typically it's an anxious person and an avoidant person. They create codependency because an avoidant person meets an anxious person, and because they're avoidant, they don't want to get too close, they don't want to fall in love with somebody, so they keep you distant. But the anxious person is just trying to give you love, so they like are being overly affectionate, and that causes the codependency. So that's how like I experienced that myself. So that's why I was like, I don't really think it's I don't think it can happen in a healthy relationship. That's what I'm saying. Or if it does happen in a healthy relationship, it shouldn't last that long, because I think you shouldn't be codependent with anybody. Like, you should be two people independently together deciding to do life together, if that makes sense. That's my view. Well,
so what are you guys' attachment styles?
I'm anxious. Like, I'm anxious, but I'm leaning towards secure. And the funny thing is, when I got in this new relationship, I started becoming more secure. And they said that in the book, like, when you meet somebody that's secure, it's much easier to have a secure attachment style. But I definitely was anxious in my last relationship before this, because, oh my gosh, like, I could not breathe without, like, this man validating everything I did. And it was so bad. I get that. Like, I think in the book, like, one thing that kind of helped me accept my attachment style is, like, it talks about, like, you might have certain needs based on your attachment style. And so, like, I know I can be clingy sometimes, and I know I need somebody that's comfortable with that. So it's like, I definitely get what you're saying, where it's like, you need somebody that's gonna meet you where you at. And I don't think there's anything, like, I think reading this book helped me realize, like, there's nothing wrong with your attachment style. Like, because I think social media makes it seem like, oh, you have an anxious attachment style, you're never gonna find a partner ever in your life, you're gonna be lonely forever, which is not true. Like, you're gonna find somebody. You just have to know who you are so that you can look for that person. I actually have a statistic to back that up. So the number one predictor of a successful relationship is noticing your partner's attempts to connect. So like those little things where they might be sitting aside and maybe like they want to talk about something. When people don't notice that stuff, that relationship is not gonna last, because you have to know your partner that well to be like, hey, what's wrong? Or hey, like, even if they want a compliment, like, that attention is so important.
It is.
I remember seeing on like Instagram one day, and it was talking about how, or maybe it was an article, but it was talking about like women that clean the house or do more housework, they're less likely to like feel appreciated and like the relationship, because they're just like, I'm doing all the work, like, what are you doing? So, and definitely I get from like a mother's perspective, like, appreciation is important, because like, especially with mothers, like, some experience like postpartum postpartum depression and stuff like that, and then if their partner isn't pitching in where they need to pitch in, then obviously they're not going to feel appreciated, and they're going to feel not happy in that relationship.
It creates resentment when you don't appreciate your
resentment
partner. Yes, like,
oh my god.
And
I definitely understand that. Like, with my past relationship, I had so much resentment, and I think I somewhat still do, because it's like, it's just one of those things, like, there are people out here that they'll never understand you. And like, that angers me, because it's like, what I say is, to me, is so simple. Like, the things I'm trying to get you to understand are so simple, but because you're you, I know I can't take that personally, because you're just never gonna see it. So I've learned to let go of a lot of that resentment. But in the relationship, I just had so much resentment, because I was like, why can't you just understand how I feel? And you keep diminishing how I feel, even though it's like right in your face. It made me so angry. I think mine's words of affirmation. But with the gift giving, like, I do think, like, sometimes we trip up because we expect people to have our same love language. Like, they, like, how you expect people, like, you want meaningful gifts, but for some people, gift giving isn't like that. They're just like, it's a gift. But that doesn't mean that they don't love you or don't care about you. They might show love by words of affirmation or always wanting to be around you and stuff like that. Because, like, me, I like saying things. Like, I will tell you to your face, I'm like, oh my god, I like you so much. Like, or I want to be around you. Like, I'll be like, hey, when are you free? Can we call on the phone? Like, I like being around you. That's my thing. I definitely get the allowing thing. And that, I feel like that's the same, like, challenge as accepting somebody too, because it's like, I think, like, when you first get in a relationship, when you're in that honeymoon phase, like, you can really get wrapped up. Like you said, you become codependent. You, like, get wrapped up in their mannerisms. You do everything with them. Like, I definitely think I've fallen to that trap before in, like, past relationships, where it's like, and honestly, like, that kind of messed up one of my friendships, because I got so involved with my ex that I was like, oh my god, like, this is the only person I need to care about, and I forgot all about my friends. And they felt some type of way, and I at the time was like, what's wrong? But they see that I'm obviously not being myself anymore, and I lost myself. And that's like, I feel like you can lose yourself when you don't allow that individuality anymore.